The boroughs are New York City. The burbs are everywhere else. Real estate is the ultimate game of risk and reward. It's the biggest investment most people ever make. Fortunes are made over a lifetime and lost in a day. And we're not playing with Monopoly money. How do you stay ahead? Who's buying? Who's selling? And why? What do they know? We want the truth. You need an edge. Boroughs and Burbs is your secret weapon, giving you the insider knowledge and strategies you need to succeed in the high-stakes world of real estate. From Palm Beach to Palm Springs, Manhattan to Malibu, we press the experts to expose the pain, find the deals, and occasionally predict the future. That's Boroughs and Burbs, Thursdays, 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific. Because everyone can make money in real estate.
Welcome, everybody. Boroughs and Burbs, episode 152, checking in on Chicago. I'm your host, John Engel, and I'm joined by my co-host in New York,
Roberto Cabrera, and here I'm on the Upper West Side.
All right. And today we have Carrie McCormick with, is it At Properties? Is that how we pronounce it?
I am with At Properties Christie's International.
At Properties Christie's International in Chicago, Illinois. But before we dive into our discussion, I want a couple of bits of housekeeping. I want to thank our sponsor, Grace Farms. You can find them at sharegracefarms.com. You get free shipping on your first order, and you can get some of their teas and coffees to support a good cause, Grace Farms Foundation. So check in to sharegracefarms.com and check out their Fall Classics teas for autumn. And with no further ado, I want to take you to carriemccormickre.com and introduce you to our special guest, Carrie. This is the second time on the show, is it not?
Feels like yesterday that I was here. I love your show, so thank you for having me.
I can't tell you how excited I am that you are here. You are like one of my real estate heroes. So I really am excited. And it's been over 18 months since we saw you last. So
I know, I can't believe how time flies, and time flies when you're having fun, right, guys?
Absolutely, and a lot of deals on your behalf. Yeah.
Yes, Chicago's a fantastic market. Don't listen to the news and what they say, but Chicago's doing very well.
So first, for us, can you define the Chicago market? When I think of New York, I think of massive, and I think of the suburbs where I am, very small. I know all the players out here personally, and I call them up first name basis. So can you define how big is the Chicago market? How intimate is the Chicago market that you're playing in?
Yeah, Chicago, I call it, and everyone from New York gets offended when I call it a mini New York, because they say it's not a New York. It's not even close, and which I agree. New York is New York, but Chicago, I call it a little baby version of that. We have 77 neighborhoods here. We do have the suburban market as well. And, I play in both of the fields, both, the city and the suburbs, because it is an intimate market here. We have a total of 44,000 real estate agents here. And just like you, John, I like to say that I know the players in here, and, it's a very intimate group of brokers that play in the high net worth luxury market.
How big is the high net worth luxury market in Chicago? I mean, are there 5,000 listings, 500 listings, 50 at any given time?
Also, it's interesting because your high net worth or luxury market is defined very differently. And I think each market defines that very differently, right? So, I would say here, anything over 5 million would be, maybe 4 to 5 million would be our luxury market. And, right now we probably only have in the Chicago market, we probably have about 15 of those listings, maybe 20 of those listings. We typically don't hit like a $20 million mark, which might be average in New York.
Wow. You had something very large last year. It was like a building that someone had and there was a young couple who was going to make it was a former orphanage or something.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh, you got a good memory.
That was an enormous property, though.
Yes, it was an enormous property, and believe it or not, that deal still has not closed. Here in Chicago, we have a zoning ordinance. It's a builder that's rezoning the property, and it's still going through their due diligence period, and we meet with different neighborhood groups, and everything needs to be approved. Our building process here in Chicago to get things changed and built is interesting. So that's still ongoing.
But the price point of that was around what?
That one started at 9 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very unique, special properties.
Yeah, we've got, Chicago's full, and just as New York, we've got a lot of different types of properties and different architectural styles here. The luxury market is really just based upon the location, of course, of the building, the views that the building offers, finishes, and amenities in our buildings. Now, once we move out to the suburbs of our market, which is our North Shore and Western suburbs, we are one of the largest homes, I should say largest in size, but price-wise is 35 million. And that's a big price tag for here for Chicagoland.
So how far outside of Chicago is that market?
Yeah, so if you plug in Winnetka, I don't know what you're on here. So it's probably about, I'm going to take a guess, it's 16 miles out of the city. So that's just a wild guess. We'll see let's see.
Winnetka, okay.
Okay, so what came up on your map, which is interesting, is the Home Alone house. Do you remember that movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what popped up that's what popped up on your map. Where, how far from the city is that saying it is? Oh, if you hit directions.
But if you were to drive that, say, mid-morning,
Mhm.
and you were downtown Chicago, and to get there, that's about how far?
About 30.
16.
Oh, look at that. I'm right on.
Yeah. And a population of 12,000. So I'm living in a town of 19,000. So, okay, I get it. And it's about an hour commute.
No. That's, again, it depends on our traffic, but I would say typically it's about a 45, I say no, it's about a 45-minute commute.
Okay.
So what you're looking at there is Winnetka, Wilmette, goes to Glencoe, that's what we call our North Shore neighborhoods here. And there's the Home Alone house, if anyone remembers that movie.
So like John's inventory outside, John's in the suburbs of New York, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
His inventory is extremely tight. Is it up in that area and getting up into the suburbs? Does it reflect the same tightness, constricted inventory?
Absolutely, it does. So what happened here in Chicago, obviously during the pandemic, and we had a few riots, there was an exodus out of our city. People moved from city living to suburban living. So that really, spiked that suburban market that we were just looking at. And inventory was extremely scarce. It was that multiple offer type situation. Homes were selling before they signs went in the ground, right? So that spurred that market. And it continues that way, right? Our North Shore market, as long as a home is what we call move-in ready, because that's what buyers and consumers want. They just want to move right in. So those homes are still performing very well.
But are you still having a little bit of an exodus? I looked at the population numbers, and if you look at the city of Chicago, the population is actually contracting, but the population of the citywide area, the metro area, it's actually growing.
Correct. That is correct. Yep.
So the suburbs, there's a tremendous amount of pressure on the suburban inventory.
Absolutely it is. And, it's great because we are seeing now that the city is behaving a little bit better here. We are seeing a resurgence back into the city. So there's some folks, that made that knee-jerk reaction to move out to the suburbs, or even they moved out of state, right? They made that reaction during COVID to leave. they're missing our city. Because I am really, I'm born and raised here in Chicago. I'm very bullish on our city. I'm a big advocate of Chicago, and they're missing what we offer here. So we are seeing a nice resurgence back into the downtown market right now. We're busy.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's great to see. So, pricing here between 2023, sometimes I always have to think of what year we're in. 2023 to 2024, our market is up 6% price wise. And again, for people listening in other markets, I know that there's, Florida and Arizona that saw these incredible double-digit increases. Chicago, I always say we're a very stable city, right? We don't see the big spikes in prices. We don't see the huge lows typically. We're kind of an even keeled city. We may kind of go like this on our chart lines. But right now we're up 6%. And actually, if you're okay, I've got an interesting stat that I pulled this morning because, there's a lot of negative news, around Chicago, but we pulled from 2013 to now, right? So that is, what is that? We're 11 years ago. The city is up 72% in 11 years.
Wow.
Our median price.
Wow.
And there's, along the way, there's been a lot of this, but if you really look historically at data, the entire city's up 72%. I shouldn't say city, Chicago as a whole, right? Because it encompasses quite a bit. Chicago, which may be similar to New York, is, I call it a market within a market, right? Each neighborhood here performs very differently. And even within that neighborhood, within that market, the product type changes. So our single family homes are outperforming our condos, right? And then you drill down to condos with lake views versus condos without lake views, those perform very different. So when people talk in general numbers, I'm like, you just can't do that. You really have to get very data specific on what's happening for that particular, product. And that's why it's so important now for us as real estate brokers to have that knowledge, right? And to know the market inside and out, to know for our buyers and sellers where they need to position themselves to be successful in the market.
So what's hot now? Right now, you mentioned that there was in the ultra luxe, the $5 million and up category, there's really only 20 choices for me coming into the Chicago market. And let's say I was looking for a $5 million house or a $10 million house. Is that an even more competitive market than those 20 in the city?
I wouldn't say it's sort of like in the last two weeks, we've had four over $7 million properties go under contract. And what happened is we had these buyers that came into the city. They looked at our inventory and they took the best of the best. There's a $15 million single family home in Lincoln Park, went under contract quickly.
What's the address?
400 West Dickens.
Okay.
I love that you're going to pull it up really quick. Take a look. Let me know if it's coming up on the screen before I keep talking.
Oh yeah, it'll come up.
Contingent, look at that. 15 million. Beautiful property. That's in the city of Chicago.
Wow. So is that an anomaly? Does that kind of stand out? Because look at the size of that.
It's 6 city lots. It's a one of a kind. It's unique. This home was on the market, don't quote me on this, a week or two. It didn't last very long. And it's one of those trophy properties that is a must have. You cannot replicate that house here in the city of Chicago for $15 million. So again, an educated consumer who was a local buyer came in, saw it, bought it.
Local.
Okay, so someone's asking, what are the taxes? Let's go see what the taxes are. I don't know what site are you? Oh, you're on Redfin.
I just pulled the first one up that I found. Yeah, it's not telling us.
Our taxes are pretty high here, though, to answer your question. And then if you want to pull up another property that sold very quickly, it's 4 Elm. And that was a condo, or is a condo, listed at 10.8 million. Was on the market for 2 weeks and also found a wonderful buyer for that. So again, to answer your question, when buyers are coming at that caliber come into Chicago, they are looking for the best of the best, location, finishes, all of that, and they're ready to purchase. And we're getting great prices, meaning people are not coming in and that's not that one.
That's not that.
At that level of $10 million, that apartment, price per square foot is approximately what? More or less? I mean, I'm sure it's just vague, but.
Yeah, so our luxury market is probably over $1,200 a square foot. This is not the condo. That's a different one. Our luxury market's probably $1,200 to $1,500 a square foot. The 4 Elm one I was just speaking of, we are at a record price per square foot for Chicago at $2,000 a square foot.
I'm still, the affordability of your city, really, it's laughable. It's unbelievable, the value. I would think that so many people would be coming there. With that, I just had a question. Do you have a lot of pied-à-terre buyers?
We do, actually. We've got quite a few pied-à-terre buyers here. Even from our suburbs, people in that Winnetka area I was just describing, they do want an in-town residence. We do have a lot of folks from Florida and some of the states that have really, tough summer weather months. Florida, Arizona, they just can't stand the heat there. So, Chicago summers are some of the best, in the United States. So they have a pied-à-terre here. Chicago's also full of great companies and businesses. We've got a lot of great headquarters here. And so, again, if parents live in Arizona, the kids are here, they've got their jobs and grandkids here. So those parents will have a pied-à-terre here too. So Chicago definitely is a big hub for second homes as well.
How is your new development responded since COVID? I mean, we had everything more or less shut down, and a lot of where there was tremendous inventory, it did contract and has been absorbed quite a bit, but there's not a tremendous amount of new development. And how is it there? And do you guys also have new development in the suburbs?
Not a ton in the suburbs, not a ton of new development in the suburbs, just because land is a little bit more scarce there. When development happens in the suburbs, it's more of like an older home gets knocked down and, one single family goes up. So I don't really consider that a development.
Yeah.
So in the suburbs, it's not as robust as the city. But to answer your question about what happened during COVID, it's kind of the same here. Everything, retracted. And our building permits, obviously, which is kind of an indicator of what's coming during COVID, and prices skyrocketed, right, for all of those developers, lumber and, all the materials. So we saw kind of a halt to all new construction, right? Which right now, there was a few buildings that were in progress of being built when that happened. There's a building called 1 Chicago. It's at 14 West Superior. Beautiful building. The sales obviously slowed down during that time, but now that we're coming out of that, we just watch these numbers tick off. It's like sold. They just sold an $8 million penthouse there. 2 and 3 million is pretty standard for that building. In the last 2 weeks, they wrote 7 contracts at that building. Wow. So, again, they had a little bit of a slow period. Again, nothing that they did wrong. It's purely a reaction to the economy. So they have a rental component to that building, and that's what you pulled up there on Zillow. So there's a rental section of 1 Chicago, and then there's also the residence side.
A lot of units in that building, I'm assuming.
It's beautiful. Building. Look how beautiful that building is.
Wow.
It's unbelievable. They've got a Lifetime Fitness, as you can see, they've got a Whole Foods in there. Finishes are top of the line. The developer, which is JDL, is one of the best here in the city. And now that we're seeing a lot of people come back to the city, this has become the building that they want. The great thing about this builder too, and which is important for all of us, is when the markets shift, is you never take your foot off the pedal, right? During the downturn, this developer was extremely smart in their marketing team, is they just kept at it with branding, with marketing, because they knew when the consumer was ready to come back, that was the first choice that they were going to pick because it's top of mind. They did a phenomenal job and it's a great building.
Some of our markets, so when we talk to California, they talk about the connection between California and Texas. When we talk to Roberto and his friends in New York, they talk about Florida and how Florida has become so important. And some of us are even accusing New York market of being a market of second homes, that people are now choosing to live in Florida with a second home in New York, or live out in the Hamptons with a second home in New York. So you seem to be immune to all of that. Can you talk to us about the Chicago? You say that these people live and work in Chicago with fine, reputable companies, and they're not fleeing for tax reasons, heading off to Palm Beach. So talk to us about the dynamic between Chicago and other markets.
Well, we do have a good correlation to Florida and Arizona. I would say those are our two biggest feeder markets, if you will. And most Chicago people end up in Naples, right? I feel like New York ends up in Palm Beach or Miami, and then Chicago ends up in Naples, right? And now we're seeing kind of the crossover down in Florida, right? So, and then Arizona, these tend to be the feeder states and locations with Florida. So for me, it was imperative during the last couple of years to have relationships and, my contacts and my network with brokers and clients down there as well.
And more so than Texas, you're getting.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit in Dallas and Austin. There was, the Austin market has cooled off quite a bit. We saw a little bit that went to like Nashville, that was an easy market, but definitely Naples, Florida, and Scottsdale, Arizona were the number one for Chicago.
Do you get Canadians?
Not that much.
Yeah.
Not that much. I love Canadians, but they don't come here.
It's just not enough of a departure from the weather.
Probably not. Yeah. I mean, I know that we just don't, unless it's a job transfer, unless they're coming here for a job. It's not like they want to come here for our winters or anything. It's purely just a job transfer.
Coming for the Cubs.
Coming for the Cubs. There you go.
What about your rental market? I'm just curious, like our rental market is sky high. Yeah. And yet for investors who are coming here, it doesn't pencil out at all. 15, 20 years ago, if you put, say, 40% down on a condo, you could rent it and cover everything.
Yes.
Over the last couple of years, especially with the spike in interest rates, you've had to put 70, 75, 80% down in order to cover everything. That may have come down a little bit to maybe 50% in some cases, but 60, 65%. But is your rental market strong? And do you have a lot of investors, and does it make sense?
How much of your market is rentals? Because Roberto is talking about one of the unique markets in the nation where 80%?
70% of our market is rental property.
Okay, so
we're the complete opposite of that. So that's where, there's a big difference between New York and Chicago. We are probably 30% rental, right? So right now, again, it's very property specific, but it doesn't really pencil out, right? It used to in the early 2000s, it made sense on the rental side for investors to come in. And we had early 2000s, a lot of investors here in Chicago. But in the last, I would say 5 to 7 years, we've lost a lot of that. We used to have a lot of international investors here because it doesn't pencil out. We have high taxes here. The assessments, HOA fees on condos are, they're pretty significant. And of course, couple that with higher interest rates, it doesn't make sense. And I do this math for a lot of my clients, because even if they're purchasing to live in it, we always like to think about exit strategy too. So again, people are, as are moving all over the world, right?
Yeah.
Jobs are moving them, they're traveling, they may not be at the home for 2 or 3 years, et cetera. So I always consult with them about an exit strategy. And does that mean either A, you're going to sell the property, or B, are you going to rent the property? So let's pencil out what both of those look like. And 9 out of 10 times when we go from the rentals, it's either they're even on it, or, it's possibly they have to look, projecting a little bit of a loss, not a huge loss, but it's, they're paying money on it. So, but again, there's always one-offs, right? There's either, a 3-flat building that may make sense, or a certain location that makes sense. So again, it's all very property specific, but I think, again, big picture, doesn't pencil out typically.
Do you have a measurable portion of foreign buyers, or is it one-offs?
One-offs.
Really?
Yeah, we used to in Chicago. It was a great international, from either investors or people coming here to live. But I would say it's now one-off, and it's more of job transfer that we're getting here. I am working with a few folks, from London that are coming here, job. Another gentleman that came here from London, his company was bought out by a Chicago company. So it's typically a transfer for employment here.
Now, will those people rent initially, at least?
No, so far they've been buying. They want to make the investment. And I think too, if again, we're very affordable, right? So, again,
Right.
from New Yorker coming in, or someone from Europe coming in here, they're looking at our pricing and it's attractive.
Sure.
So, I mean, unless they're not comfortable of, which neighborhood they want to be in, they may go rental, but it's definitely, they're coming here and looking to buy.
Roberta,
Hang on a second. Is your rental market just within the perspective of your marketplace? Is it considered high? Because there must be with so much property being like owned property, that puts a lot of pressure on the rentals.
It does put a lot of pressure on the rentals. We actually don't have that many here. We have rental buildings, they're just dedicated to
Yeah.
renters. But a lot of, it's probably not people's first choice, right? Because that's kind of more of a stepping stone building, if you will. But to rent a really nice single family home or a luxury condo, we don't have very many of them.
Yeah. John,
Roberta, you can ask any broker in Chicago about the rental market. I know you're very excited about the rental market.
There's a dynamic that I'm trying to understand.
We are talking to the queen of Chicago real estate here. And let me just remind you, she's got 97,000 followers. Look at her. And this is her Instagram page. She's putting out a reel, I think, almost every day. She has a formidable marketing strategy with 50,000, 80,000, 76,000 views of her gorgeous property videos. Can you talk to us a little bit about the Carrie McCormick marketing magic?
Which is spectacular, by the way. I mean, it's just so highbrow. It is so well done.
And Roberta, there's no $5,000 rentals on that page.
No.
No, I don't. I do have one that's 30,000. So we'll talk about that after this call. So, marketing it comes natural to me. And the reason it comes natural, because there was a point in my career where, I always tell people, you just have to be authentic to who you are. Right. And I think if you're a kind human being, if you really just, speak and you are who you are, it comes through, right? So when we do these videos, I really try to tell the story of each property. And I really try to explain it from my point of view, right? And it just started to kind of take on a life of its own, right? And I think people can see and feel that it it's authentic. You know, I have, someone behind the camera, telling me what to say and what to do. And I'm like, no, that's just not something I would say or do. I truly love what I do, and I think people can tell.
Yes, it definitely translates. But you do it, it's very highbrow, it's very elegantly done. I
Can
mean,
you play these, or can you not play these? Or is it just a screen grab?
No, I can play it.
So one, I was not that one.
Okay, not that one. All right, pick
That's
one.
a fun one. But I just want to stop right there. If you go. Okay, let's go to, keep going down, keep going down.
I'm
going
really
down.
intrigued by that baseball in the air there, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, you can do that one if you want. That's my son. That was my back to school. So this was really not property. That's my son. So it's really not, that was not property. It was, well, we started at a property, but he was leaving to go to school. And we're up at the condo. And they're baseball players, so they had fun with that one. So that's probably the only one so it's right there on the left, or my left. It's that one. So that is the penthouse that just sold. And that was on the market for about 2 weeks.
Wow.
So again, this is situated in the city of Chicago in an incredible location, incredible views. The night views are as good as the day views there. So, we took advantage of different viewpoints in it. And just that video did very well, and we found our buyer through it.
That was going to be the key question. Does video sell real estate?
Yes, it does. And I do have a success story. It's too far down in my feed, but I'll just share it with you guys. I had a listing, it ended up selling, but I had a listing at 6 North Michigan Avenue. And if people know Chicago, it was directly across from the Bean. The listing was a little bit challenging in the sense of the location wasn't in like a true neighborhood. It was across from Millennium Park, the Bean. It's actually, oh, you were close to it. But anyways, so we curated a video and we said, how are people going to know this location of this? And we said, everyone knows the Bean, right? Everyone knows what the Chicago Bean is. So we started the video with the Bean. That video ended up going viral. We had over 20 million views on this video. Went around the world. The reason this property was a little more difficult to sell was because it was a 4-story penthouse that didn't have an elevator. It was all, stairs. And it had $10,000 a month assessments.
This one?
That's not the video that went viral. Yeah, that's not the video that went viral.
That's
but
a niche.
Oh, no, that's not that one. That's a different one. Let me
Live
see.
Above the Bean?
No, that was a different one. It was hang on one sec.
The rest of us would put our most famous video up on top.
Yeah, you would think. But I need to sell another property. That one sold. So the St. Regis sold. That one did well too.
But look at these views, 325,000, 1.2
So
million.
look at the one, click on that one.
Which one?
Top left, top
1.
left.
1.2.
Top
So
left.
so this actually, yeah, right there, 8.9.
8
But
point.
look at that. So that one sold, and that one sold through a video. That gentleman that bought that penthouse saw the video and came in from Florida.
Wow.
And
Fantastic.
that's a second home for him and his wife.
So Carrie, this is a property video, and I'm assuming this has a little bit more production value than, for example, just a reel where you might be chatting or saying something or giving. There's also sometimes there's still images of you, but there's statistics and things like that. Who puts that together for you?
So I'm sorry, I was watching the video. Say your question again.
So some of this, like a property video, like a
Yes.
formal property video, has a bit of production value. There's a drone. There's there's just you're going to spend your day there. But you do also you post things regularly where it might be even a static image of you, but it has some statistics on it, or it says something, or there's an anecdote, or there's a story, and it's less formal, but it's well done and it's produced by somebody. Who does that for you?
Me.
You do it all yourself.
Yes.
Fantastic. And
Yes.
when do you do that? Do you do that at night when you're in bed? Do you do it in the morning when you get up? Do you do it in the middle of the day? When do you find the time in your structured day to do that?
Yes. So I think as an entrepreneur, our minds are always going, right? We're always thinking, we're always creating. We have our pulse on the market. We know what the needs are. And it really just comes authentically to me of what's a need in the market. So like, for example, the other day, our weather's starting to shift here in Chicago. We're coming into the fall market. And so I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I need to get some property photos done now because, the snow is going to hit, et cetera. So I'm like, well, wait a second, I need to do a quick video on that. So sometimes it just, it comes to you and you kind of do it on the fly. Again, in my mind, I built my brand and I built my service of what I want. It's no one else dictating to me how to build my brand. It's no one dictating to me how to treat my clients. It really comes from within. And to me, that's why I'm successful, is because it's me, it's authentically me. How do I find the time? This job is a 24/7 job, 7 days a week. And again, I think truly when you love what you do, you just find the time to do it. I mean,
when does that pocket of time usually hit you when you're like, because you might have an idea and say, listen, I'm going to put that together tonight. When I get in bed, I'm going to have like 2 hours or what? I mean, when's that normal creative space happen for you?
that's typically between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. in the morning. So it's really, I hate to say that, but no one's really calling me or emailing me during that time, right? And, I'm the opposite of a lot of people. Some people are a 5 a.m. person, in the morning to 7, right? That's you. I'm the opposite. I'm getting up at 6:30 or 7, but my quiet time is that very late night. I thrive. Those are my 3-hour thrive time. I absolutely love it. Where yours is, whatever it is in the morning. But it's, I always tell people it's not right or wrong. It's just, who you are. So that's my creative time.
So you're in front of the camera, you're in your quiet time planning your next photo shoot, you're negotiating the deals, you're worrying about new business, you're doing all of these things. Are you time blocking in order to be more efficient? Do you have a team of helpers?
I do. I have 4 wonderful support people. I don't like to call them my assistants. I don't know why, I just don't. I call them my supports team. That they kind of handle the noise that's around me so that I'm able to focus on what I do best. Where, I have some brokers that approach me about social media or about marketing and they struggle with it, right? And, for me, and I feel very fortunate and lucky, it just honestly just comes to me. Like I see the vision, especially when we're producing the videos. It's not that I don't script it out. I know in my mind how I want the video to look. And I've been working with my videographer for quite some time, and we've got a machine going. We understand, are there things that that we bounce ideas off of each other, but it comes easy. That part comes easy for me.
I was on a call this morning with a lot of the top agents, element agents in the Northeast, and they said, "What's today's show on, John, and I said, well, we've got Carrie McCormick, and she's going to talk to us about some of her innovative marketing ideas for the ultra luxe property sector in the Chicago market. She talks about white glove service, and I want to understand from her what that means. And I want to understand from her why she's able to market some of these off MLS. When a
Mhm.
lot of us are worried and wondering about the rules, the new rules, how are the rules changing? What is the role of the MLS? I found it refreshing that you almost gave me permission when you said we market some of these exclusive properties off the MLS, and we're able to do that. I'm assuming because you have 97,000 followers and you're producing at such a high level these videos and these telling the story. When you is that what allows you? So tell us about the program. Is that what allows you to move off of the MLS and offer a super luxe service for the super luxe properties?
You know, it's, I think it's also, it's my network that I've built around. I've been a broker for 25 years, 25 years. And, moving into the luxury space and just surrounding yourself with the right network of people has become imperative to my success. Offering a heightened personalization service to clients as well has become, and then when we talk about white glove, it's my job, everyone's time is valuable. And I say my job is to take care of all of the details, right? So what does that mean? When a client comes into Chicago to purchase, or if they're looking for a specific property, it's my job to know exactly what they're looking for and to present that to them, right? So that's, working with a buyer, or, if I have a seller that has a specific property, I know who's in the market and who's looking for that. Through video, again, being able to tell the story of that property, not only am I tapping into the Chicago market, I am tapping into markets all over the world. I was starting to talk about 6 North Michigan Avenue, the St. Regis property. Those were buyers were found not from Chicago, they were found outside of Chicago. I'm just going to go back to the 6 North Michigan Avenue property. That video that went viral, again, it was a curated video telling the story about this property. That video went all over the place. I got calls from people all over, showings. The gentleman that ended up purchasing that property, his name is Nick. And the reason I can disclose who it is because I did post the success story, or the case study, I called it, on LinkedIn, just to talk about the power of social media, the power of storytelling. And Nick actually responded to my post and told the world on LinkedIn about his experience. The story goes is, again, this video goes viral. Nick is from Florida. He's in LA over holiday having dinner with his sons. His son says, "Hey, Dad, look at this place on my Instagram. Look at this video of this home." Nick looks at it and says, "Oh yeah, I've seen it. All my friends are sending me that video." And they're like, "Dad, that would be a great place to call home, because all the families all over the United States. What a great hub." Nick picks up the phone, calls me. I answer. Importance of answering your phone and being responsive to clients. Answer the phone. He asks me questions about the property. He says, "I'm on a plane tomorrow. I want to come see the property." Nick flies in. He buys the property. All from the video. So again, I don't know if I'm answering your question. I know I'm kind of going out on a little bit of a tangent here. But again, just the power of social media, and it's really about connection too with people, right? So Nick could have called me. I could have not answered my phone, not called him back, not been available to him when he wanted to come see the property. It's all, again, going back to white glove, it's Nick's busy, he's vacationing, he's running his business. He needed what he wanted on his time frame. When Nick got here, he also said, okay, I'm not going to be here full time. I need a house manager. I need this, I need this, I need this. Rolled out the red carpet for him. He's all set up, moved in, done.
So are you finding that you can now market off MLS for some of these properties because your clients are asking you to?
So off MLS, we do need seller permission to do that, right? So always playing by the rules, never want to not play by the rules in this market. But yes, on our listing paperwork, we have a section in there that says, will you allow me to market your home? It's a yes or no, on or off the MLS, and it's always their direction. So as long as they give me permission to do that, absolutely. I do have one property now that the seller has given me permission. It's funny. I can't talk about the property. I can't give out his address. I can't share any pictures. I can't do anything, but he wants me to sell it. So I have that. So, there are unique ways to do that, right? So I know his property inside and out. I know what it offers. In my circle, in my network, in my broker network, if I hear or know someone talking about a need, a want, a right, connection with this property, that's when I would make that introduction, obviously with the seller's permission. But it's also, it's really about knowing and understanding what people want. And that's why I keep going back to the word connection is, we're kind of a little bit of a matchmaker of what people wants and needs are. So it's to be able to connect the dots with that.
Can I ask you a question about that video? I mean, all your videos are of tremendous quality and they're engaging. What about that particular one do you think it was? Did you place it somewhere on a certain portal? Why did that particular one go viral the way you were explaining it?
Yeah, I think two reasons looking back at it. I think the icon of the bean was number one. I think that just kind of placed it on the map of where it was location wise. But the opening room that we used and the drama that we used, because we did it like at we did it at sunrise. So, they were there at 4 o'clock in the morning, so I think it was an emotional entry to that video that really grabbed people. And I think that is important because we know that everyone's attention span, we've got a few seconds, especially on all these social media platforms, as people are going so quick through it. You just have a few seconds to capture someone's attention. And emotion plays a lot into advertising, right? And, Budweiser and all these big brands that have used dogs and babies and the music, all of that, there's a science behind it, right? Of consumer behavior. So it's understanding how consumers consume information and, what's going to move them. You
also just a minute ago spoke about you go into your network and you speak, you go into your sphere and you look for a need and you understand, you have your ears to the grindstone of what's happening. I'm assuming in your marketplace, just like in ours for the most part, at the very, very top, it becomes very small. Like there's a handful of people that are handling these types of properties. Do you know all those other players well? And do you guys play well in the sandbox together?
I mean, I'd like to think that we do. I mean, if you ask the other few, everyone's answers may be different, right?
I mean, someone might be out there is like that Carrie,
Well, I
she got
yeah, I mean, again, I think this was, I'm pausing just like, I think this goes back to honestly my childhood, is I was always taught to be nice, right? And I know that sounds so basic, but that's really kind of the household I grew up in is, always be nice to people. So in business, no matter what happens, I do think if you asked 100 people about me, 99% of them would say, She's so nice, and it really is, there's no reason to be combative. There's no reason to not play nice in the sandbox. Am I a tough negotiator? Can I be tough? Absolutely. But I think to have good relationships with people, to, respect everybody, to be professional, so I would say I mean, again, we all have the same goal at the end of the day, right? So I do think we all get along. Is there one kind of bad seed in the group? There always is. And I say, if you say that there's not a bad seed in your group, you are the bad seed, so, but no, I mean, Chicago's such a friendly town, and we're all very down to earth,
Is that
folks
true in New
here.
York, Roberto?
What's
Roberto,
that?
are your peers in New York? Could you say that about your peers in New York?
There are
Is it-
handfuls of bad seeds in but ours are a little larger, you know.
It's
Yeah,
not so intimate in New York.
No, but it's like, I could pick up the phone and virtually call anybody after doing this 26 years. I mean, and I have a lot of unbelievable relationships, and I can gain knowledge and learn about different things that are off market and things like that. But there are a few that are difficult, always difficult, and there's just no reason to be.
but your luxury market is much more vast than Chicago.
There's
over,
a lot more opportunities spread around among a lot more people, for sure.
yeah. So you're playing in a different league than we are here in Chicago. So yes, it's just smaller, it's more intimate, and there's we all get along.
Harry's going to encounter that other top agent several more times this year. Roberto, you're talking to me about a market that's so large that you may not encounter that agent again for several years.
For sure. No doubt about it. What about you? What about
I encounter
you?
the
It's gotta
same
be the
dozen.
thing. Your market in New Canaan, and it's got to be the same.
There's only 60 properties on the market right now in New Canaan.
Gary, did you
And
hear
so
that?
it's the same
60.
dozen people that are
Nothing.
talking to each other.
Yeah.
That's just so competitive.
Well, I mean, then that's where, us as a broker, you have to be innovative of finding the inventory, right? There's 60 homes on the market, and, my job sometimes is to create a market. And how do I create a market and find more opportunities? There's times where I know there's a buyer need. I know, oh, actually tomorrow I have a showing. There's a buyer need in the market. There's a gentleman, he's got a budget of $10 million, which, again, all of a sudden we're getting all these, big fish here. And, I listened to him. He's not my client, but I listened to, what he wants. I showed him a few things of my listings. They weren't the right fit. And I know of a home that is not on the market, but is the perfect house for him. I called the seller and I said, would you be willing to show your home? Here's the profile of the buyer. He's been vetted. I've got his proof of funds. Would you sell your home? And he said, show it tomorrow. So I'm going to show that house tomorrow. So on our next show, we'll see if that deal happens. But that's what I mean about creating a market and understanding. And this is off MLS, I'll get a 1-day showing agreement with him. So everyone's protected. So we play by the rules and we're doing the right thing. And we'll see if we can put a deal together. And that's
You just said you're having a lot of big buyers coming. Is that?
We are having,
because they see it as affordable there?
This gentleman is local, so I think he's looking at the market as it is a good time. Also, I do think when you look at the economy as a whole, there's, whether they're in the financial field, and they're, we know when their bonuses are coming out, when some of these, hedge fund guys and gals are getting their bonuses, we see a surge in the market. When the stock market, someone's saying they're predicting it's going to fall, some people are taking their money out of the stock market and they want to put it into a hard asset, which I think is kind of what's happening now too. So there's outliers outside of the real estate market that we look at. Logistics, when we start seeing things start moving around the world, we mean the economy is doing well. Again, I watch people's bonuses. I watch the sports, the Bulls, the Bears, the Blackhawks, the trades that are going on. I watch, XYZ player just got a, $21 million signing bonus. He's a buyer. So, you have to watch what's happening around you in the market.
And you call them up and you sell them a house? Is it that intimate?
Sometimes they're represented, so I know who their representation is, so I'll call their rep. But I have no problem picking up the phone and calling somebody. No problem.
This is fascinating. I mean, in our last few minutes, I really want to, so forward looking, what I've learned so far is that it's a very intimate and personal approach to the business. It's answering your phone. It's being available, calling up that guy on the Blackhawks or his agent and talking to him about your ideas. It's a very old-fashioned way of approaching the business. And yet what's innovative and new are all these reels and the emphasis on social media. I didn't hear you talk about traditional advertising and traditional outreach. I heard about innovations in social media to get the outreach. And then I talked about and a traditional approach to running the business of which is still a very personal business. Where do you see the future of this business going? I mean, short of replicating yourself, how do you scale further? Or is that not important?
The future, well, just kind of going back to, advertising, I definitely do a lot of print ads still. I'm a little old school and as far as magazines go and postcards and, signage. And then I've coupled it with that very personal approach of picking up the phone. I call it the grassroots marketing. The one thing that will never be replaced, people are worried about AI or, these big platforms like Zillow or for sale by owner. The one thing that they cannot replace is me as a human being, right? So what can I bring to the table that can't be replaced? It's me. So, for me, I like to keep my business a little boutique, meaning I have a tagline that says 100% Carrie. So when you hire Carrie, you get Carrie. We'll see what's going to happen the next couple of years. We'll see what happens with the market. But I'm very obsessed with what I do and how I do it and the service that I provide. I have a hard time letting go of letting someone else in, if you will. Oh, there it is.
100% Carrie. I can't use that tagline.
No, you can't. So you can't do that. You could put a wig on and, come do a video, that'd be fun.
So what's interesting to me is that in the last couple of years, you said you've had to connect with Florida agents. You'd have had to connect with, you talked about an understanding of what's going on in the Austin market. That's changed in the last few years. Is that going to continue? Your intimate relationship with your clients and their real estate needs is now extending into secondary markets. And so you're connecting with agents in those markets in order to follow those sports stars and entertainment stars as they move and their real estate needs evolve outside of Chicago. True?
True. So a lot of brokers here in Chicago have secondary license. They'll be licensed in Arizona. They'll be licensed in Florida. They'll be licensed in New York. They're licensed. They have like several different licenses, and it's to capture each market. I never went down that path because I want to be an expert in Chicago, but I also want to be a resource for my clients wherever they go in this world, right? So like if I had a client in New York, I don't want to know New York. I mean, I do, but I'm not an expert there. I want to have a trusted resource, a trusted person that I can hand off my client to and still keep somewhat involved, but do that handoff. And again, I think when you're dealing in the luxury market and having the white glove personal service, when my clients call me and say, hey, Carrie, my son's moving to New York. Hey, Carrie, my daughter's moving to Naples. Who do you have down there? I can say, I've got the perfect person for you. I'm going to give you to XYZ. I can make that soft introduction and off they go. and I don't have to worry about that market.
I
But I
think
know,
that's why Roberto and I do this podcast, so that we can connect with people in Costa Rica, Oslo, Marbella,
there you
Spain,
go.
and now Chicago.
And Chicago.
Wow. Well, this has been a tremendous hour. I mean, are there any parting thoughts? I mean, I can't thank you enough for doing this. I mean, we are huge fans of what you're doing. I mean, your social media, your presence, your marketing, it's all so top notch. And I'm so glad 18 months later to check in with you and find out that you're better than ever, and that you're just killing it in Chicago. So
Again, I think when you love what you do and you put your heart and soul into it, there was a saying I'll leave everyone with. This just came to me. It's kind of a weird thing to end this with. I'll just preface it that, but I saw it and it just resonated with me. And it's kind of a weird thing. So again, I'm prefacing. It said, the devil doesn't break into empty houses. Okay. Kind of weird, right? But I was thinking about that. I'm like, what does that mean? And it is, if you are successful and you have something, kind of like the outside world's going to come in and try to get it. So, like no one's going to want to break into my house if I don't have anything to offer. And I'm talking about like competition around me too, right? And so when you build something so great and you build a brand that's so great, my job is to protect this brand and to keep being true to who I am, and don't let anybody into it that's not going to support my vision and to support what I have to offer. So, again, I'm building something that's very dear to my heart, and I'm obsessed with it. So I think the next time that we talk, I'll have bigger and better ideas for you.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you,
Thank you, Roberto.
John.
This has been great again.
Fabulous.
Make sure you like and share with your friends. I'm going to share this with all those people on the call this morning who asked about what is Carrie McCormick all about. I'm going to share this with all of them. So thank you all.
Thank you, Carrie.
And see you in less
Bye-bye.
than 18 months. Bye.
Thank you.